On the line with us, a revolutionary, Emma Ruby-Sachs, Executive Director of Avaaz, avaaz.org is the website. And Emma, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Thanks for joining us, and I hope you don't mind my referring to you as a revolutionary.
Not at all.
Okay, we originally reached out to you about this Monsanto story, which I want to get to. I think it's astonishing and rather chilling, frankly. But first, this movement for our kids, 7,000 children have been slaughtered in our schools since Newtown. And you participated in this extraordinary event. I referenced this two hours ago on this program, but for people who are just tuning in, can you give us a recap of what's happening in D.C. today?
Yeah, I actually was just there. I had to find somewhere quiet to talk to you. What we have are 7,000 pairs of shoes out on the Southeast Capitol lawn right in front of lawmakers. You can see it from the offices inside.
Wow.
And it's this huge installation, and it represents, you know, the 7,000 kids who've been killed by gun violence across the country. So it's not just schools. It's kids who are gunned down in their neighborhoods, in their homes. And it's just a visual representation of the cost of inaction.
Mm. So it's 7,000 kids. I must have misspoke earlier. I thought it was 7,000 kids just in our schools. But we've had 7,000 children die from gun violence just, what, in the last 5 years, roughly? 4.5 years, something like that?
Since Sandy Hook.
Since Sandy Hook.
One of the first times we ever said never again about these mass shootings.
Right.
And then you just see what happened in Parkland exactly a month ago.
Yep.
And the death toll's only rising.
What kind of response are you getting from lawmakers to this political guerrilla theater or this statement, whatever you would call this?
I think it's really touching the core of what's at stake here. And, you know, I was with a member of Congress who cried with me looking at the shoes. It's hard not to when you see little, you know, I dropped my daughter's shoes off as part of the memorial, and she's 2.5.
Oh my.
You see these waves of small shoes and of kids' lives that were cut short. And I think it's haunting, and I think it's a good reminder of why, you know, our allies are fighting for gun control, and also of what the cost is to opposing gun control. And I think there are moments in history where we can reach out to our politicians as human beings, and this feels like one of those moments. You know, the polling is in our favor now for the first time, vastly in our favor. And yeah, Florida just passed a gun control law, which I never thought would happen. So,
well, sort of.
Something's shifting. I mean, for the right, it's considered gun control, and I think that's really groundbreaking.
Yeah, it was bump stock control, but I understand what you're saying.
To be fair.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps, but still steps, and which means that they're having to react, and they're having to react to a bunch of high school kids in Parkland who are using their class privilege essentially as because it's a very, very upscale neighborhood, and these kids, you know what they're doing. They're savvy, they're smart, they are just such, you know, heroes. It's extraordinary. Tell us real quickly about Avaaz, your organization, AVAAZ.
Avaaz is a 46 million member global advocacy group, and we basically show up when moments of change are happening. So whether that's getting a climate change agreement in Paris, or working for human rights in Syria, against corruption in Brazil, and here in the U.S. on gun control. And we have a little over 2 million members in the U.S., and they are clamoring for action.
Where and when did Avaaz start? And what does AVAAZ stand for?
So Avaaz means voice or song in 14 different languages, and that's the idea behind our name, because fundamentally we're just about giving citizens the power to communicate with their leaders effectively and quickly when needed. And it started a little over 10 years ago by a Canadian guy named Rick Patel. And he started with just one petition. He sent it out and said, you know, I think that people might want to sign on to this. It was way before that was commonplace. And it caught fire. It had, I think, 500,000 signatures. And then we just have grown from there, and now we're entirely member-funded. We take only money from our small online donations from our members. And we've grown to almost 50 million members.
That's extraordinary. So, Monsanto, you ran a campaign against Monsanto, or actually I shouldn't characterize it. I'd like you to characterize that campaign. And as a consequence of that, Monsanto reacted in a way that was rather startling and has made a demand that should cause any of us who have ever participated in any sort of a political activist venue, whether it's Avaaz or anything else, to sit up and take notice. This is a BFD. This is huge. This is, in my opinion, this is huge. Tell us about it.
So it's basically, and I sort of see this as Monsanto being really sore losers, because Avaaz, we ran a campaign in the European Union that limited their license to distribute this pesticide that the World Health Organization has said probably causes cancer.
And you're talking about glyphosate, the herbicide?
Glyphosate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in Argentina, we stopped a seed plant that was being built in a community right near a water source. And we've been opposing their merger with Bayer, which is a huge part of their plan for the future. And we have members in the countries with their biggest markets. And we've run a number of campaigns over many years against them. And then we got a subpoena delivered to our office, a 170-page subpoena that basically says, we demand that you turn over all communications in your possession related to Monsanto, to glyphosate, to anyone else who produces glyphosate, to any other organizations that are involved in this, to any other herbicide that's related, which of course includes years and hundreds of thousands of pieces of communication, including information from our members, you know, their names, their email addresses, what they've written to their representatives. And it's been, we put out a call to our members and we said, this has happened. Should we fight it? And our members voted overwhelmingly to fight it. And not only that, they then funded the fight, which has been incredible. Our first stage is completely funded. And after that outcry and our initial legal filing, which explained why it was so unbelievably out of the jurisdiction of the law for them to ask for this, Monsanto's already withdrawn a huge piece of that subpoena. They've already said, they've submitted to the judge saying, oops, we don't actually want any member data. Oops, we don't want anything related to Monsanto. We just want communications related to glyphosate, which is still a crazy thing to ask for, but it's an amazing win that our members have to power.
Yeah. What does this, I mean, you know, you're almost 50 million member organization. You're not, you know, a small local organization. Does Monsanto have a history of using slap suits and threats and subpoenas and these sorts of things against smaller organizations that might not be able to fight back?
You know, I assume they do because I've just looked at the kind of litigation that they've launched just in the last year. They subpoenaed the International Agency for Research on Cancer. They have sued the state of California. They've sued the state of Arkansas. These are big organizations that are being embroiled in legal battles. Yeah. I can't imagine what a smaller organization would do. And an organization, you know, our members are really brave, but it's scary when a corporation is saying to you, the world that we live in is one where if you oppose us, we all of a sudden will have access to all your emails, to yourself, and your private emails with friends that relate it all to us. And when our members found out about this, a lot of them wrote in with support, and a lot of them wrote in scared, saying, does this mean my information is going to be turned over to this huge corporation, and what does that mean for my future?
Right. Is there any kind of legislative fix, or is this, I'm guessing this is an international problem, not just a U.S. problem?
Interestingly, this is a U.S. law they're using, so it's kind of, this is crazy legal stuff, but what they did is there's these two guys in Illinois who are suing them for getting cancer for using, while they were using Roundup. They both have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. They used Roundup for 30 years, and they're suing them, and this all happened a long time ago. And they attached our subpoena to that lawsuit. So the lawsuit has nothing to do with advocacy, nothing to do with any of the campaigns we've run. They're just hooking it onto that lawsuit in order to catch us in that net. And I think that is a loophole that could be fixed legislatively, and also it's a loophole that judges could fix, and hopefully the judge we go in front of will fix by quashing this kind of subpoena. Right,
and hopefully set a precedent that might be upheld by higher courts. Although, given the nature of the Supreme Court right now, I'm not holding my breath. Remarkable.
Well,
Go ahead.
We hope this doesn't end up into a Supreme Court fight, but we'll be there if it does.
Yeah, amen. We're talking with Emma Ruby-Sachs. She's the executive director of Avaaz. avaaz.org is the website. You can tweet her and Avaaz in general at AVAAZ. Emma, we have about a minute here before we hit a hard break. What other campaigns is Avaaz working on that you would like to highlight?
We obviously are doing a lot to focus on gun violence right now, but it's not all we're working on. We've been working on what's happening in Italy and stopping the far right, encouraging the centrist populist movement in that country to ally itself with the Liberal Democrats and create a stable government. We've been working to ban neonics, which are a different kind of pesticide that really threatens our bee populations and our entire food future. Interestingly, Bayer is one of the companies involved in that. And we're also working on what's happening in Yemen and having countries turn away from these huge arms deals with the Saudis that are directly being used to kill civilians in Yemen. And that's just a few of the campaigns we're working on right now.
That's marvelous. Avaaz is the organization, the website avaaz.org. You can tweet at Avaaz. Emma Ruby-Sachs is the executive director. Emma, thank you so much for dropping by today.
Thank you so much.
Great talking with you, and I wish you the very best and keep up the great work. It is marvelous having good.
Can't help it.
There you go.
Can't wait to keep listening to your show. It's
well,
wonderful.
thank you, Emma. Thank you. It's very kind. We'll be back. Stick around.